you celebrate Easter growing up? Let's talk about that.
I always, being a pastor's kid, it was different.
Yeah.
Like, so for me, we just knew Easter as Good Friday service, Resurrection Sunday.
I saw pictures of you when you was a baby, you know, so you would have a good chance of winning.
The official Easter Bunny happened in like around 1572. What I would say is, okay, well, the Easter Bunny have nothing to do with the occasion.
Yes.
Like,
So the bubbly and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You ever made one?
Never made one, but
Never made one.
You ever was one?
if what?
You ever was one?
What do you mean you could be one? There's so lots of people.
I was gonna say
So
I
joke.
might have did some wrestling moves on my little brother and thing. You could ask him about that. So
Alright,
yeah.
cool. So he was the bubbly then.
He was at that point.
That's
Yeah.
your advantage.
He used to get me in trouble. You said you're close to my age.
No, I'm not. I am not.
What people need to understand though, like with most holidays, it's commercialized.
Yes.
It's about dollars and cents. How much your mother would have to pay for all them Easter egg and all them things?
Snowballs back in the day.
How much you pay for your nails?
Relax yourself in the
This
corner.
man,
there for a
this
place.
man, he was killed, and 3 days later he rose again. Whether that was precise or an average of the time, and the main thing is he rose, he got up. Because no other book will give you that much detail and then show how it was proven. I want to live and I want to tell as many people that there's hope in Christ. That there is going to be a day where you're going to face God and you can't do that on your own goodness.
What's up, you guys? Welcome to another episode of Hope Unfiltered. I'm Ren and your pastor Jay.
Hey, great to be here today.
Yeah?
Always fun conversations.
Is it now?
Well, yeah. I think it's always be fun still.
Yeah, it definitely is fun. But today we have a very interesting topic. Hopefully it's fun. Hopefully it's a fun one.
Well, I mean, it depends on what side of the table you take it, but it'll be fun just talking about it and bringing some light onto it then.
So what is that topic?
This one, I think around this time always comes up, all in your feed, you know, reels and stuff, but is Easter a pagan holiday?
Okay. Interesting. Is it?
I guess that's what we're going to talk about. I love to hear your research on this.
I don't know. Maybe the MP should chime in here. MP.
What's going on?
Nothing much. You're good?
Yes. Any more singing for this episode?
I
Stop
hope
it,
not.
Stop
I
it.
hope not. I heard somebody got a call to join a tour though.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. A boy
Yeah.
band or
It
something?
was
yeah,
me.
boy, but it was you. It was you.
It was me.
You sure?
That was a Shaggy reference.
Oh wow! I did not pick up on that.
All right. How you
Okay,
guys
so
doing?
well, I guess it's about that time. Icebreaker time.
Yes.
Josh, what you got for us? Please be nice.
So at least I could say no singing in this one.
Okay.
So that should be...
Yeah, but that.
I don't trust anything with Olia at this point now.
Olia, how
I have been
I-
scarred. I have been
Why
scarred.
am I included in this?
Because of your close proximity
My
to
close
the MP.
proximity. We are literally sitting around the same distance away. If that's what you're talking about.
Okay, I just want more than life. Okay?
Oh, in
I don't
life.
understand.
I'm not close to the MP.
So this game is real simple, like I always say. It's called Mind Sync. Mind Sync, right?
Mind what?
Sync.
Like sing.
Sync?
Sync.
You know, like in
Like in sync?
Yes.
Okay.
And sync, yes. To be in, yeah.
All right.
Right. So it's real simple. I want both of you all to think of one word. And on the count of 3, 2, 1, both of you all will see it. So for
Okay.
example,
Okay.
if you
you're
say...
giving us a topic to like guide us.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So you always have
That's-
to say one word. So for example, if Ren says car and you say red,
Right.
then you'll need to think of another word that matches those two words.
Okay, so we starting it off.
Totally random.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then if I say car and you say red, you might think the next word should be Ferrari because car, red, Ferrari.
Okay.
So the concept of the game is try to get you all to say the...
This gave
Same
me
thing.
this gave me
Same thing.
this gave me flashbacks of the parrot one when we had to create that story. I'm not saying, but all right.
Listen, that story was a hitter.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to me.
Thanks to you, yes.
Yes.
I keep trying
People
to bring
was
it back.
asking for more.
Yeah, they want to know at the end because
Yeah, what's happened? Clearly, the people ended up crying and nothing. Like the story ended there.
Yeah, that was one of the better
Classics.
Yeah. So right, so mind sync. So on the count of 3, 2, 1, you'll just say a word.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
from there we'll take it and move on. Right? 3, 2, 1.
Easter.
Hippopotamus.
What?
I come for it today, you know. I didn't get you.
All right.
Why?
Hippopotamus on Easter.
I don't even know.
don't know,
Did we start
but
over?
No.
Why?
You'll need to continue until
Okay, count us down.
3, 2, 1.
Animal.
Farm.
Okay. Animal farm. I have something that I think you all should go with, but let's see if you all will.
Just,
go.
right. Animal farm. All right, go ahead.
3, 2, 1.
Cow.
Farmville.
Where you going again?
So where is Farmville and cow? That's
Yeah.
what you all said?
Yeah.
Yeah. I still think my answer could work. Yeah, it could still work.
Your answer could
Well,
work.
I have a word that kind of goes with the.
Both of them? I
Yeah.
have no idea. Farmville is describe that game? Okay, you all right.
Farmville is the game on Facebook you used to play and you used to own a farm and you used to have to take care of it. And
All right, all
you're not
right.
ringing a bell?
Nope.
Wow.
All right, so 3, 2, 1.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We
We
still
didn't
on the
match
same
there, you
thing.
know,
We
'cause
still
I
on the
didn't
same
know.
thing.
Farmville and cow.
Farmville and cow. Come on, guys. This is not hard to get.
Joshua, you are not sitting here.
Farmville and cow.
your
One
name.
thing comes to mind. Farmville and cow. 3, 2,
No.
1.
Grass?
I am
What
so
was your word?
confused.
Just MP, give us the word now.
Old MacDonald.
What?
Old
Old
MacDonald.
Had a farm.
Duh.
No, that's not that obvious.
Okay, well, you all still have to go. So it's cow and Farmville. 3, 2,
I said
1.
one. Grass.
Dirty.
Dirty grass.
This is your idea.
All right, dirty grass.
Listen,
I
the
get
whole
things-
episode might as just be going down with.
Exactly.
dirty and grass. What comes to mind when you all think of
Nothing,
that?
Joshua.
Yeah, something comes to my mind. 3,
Clearly,
2,
you love this game. It
1.
has a lot. I don't know. Dirty and grass. Dirty and grass.
I lost.
Yeah, I lost.
Okay, let me and Jay try it then.
Oh gosh, all right.
I like this. Great. 3,
Dirty grass.
Dirty grass. I
1.
Remember back the countdown.
3, 2,
I have no idea, Josh.
1.
Football.
Football. I watch it.
You watched him.
Yeah, I wait till he started to say it.
That is called cheating.
All right, so clearly wrong one didn't work. Let's just try one more time.
One more time.
One more time. We were supposed to do 3, but we can't do 3.
Yeah,
How
we
we
can
all
do
do
this.
it. So
In
we
other
gotta-
words, our minds not
not
synced.
sync. Yeah.
English clearly is not our strong.
All right, so we starting over.
Points.
Any word could work now,
Random
right?
word, random word, random word,
Okay.
random.
You have your word?
Let's go.
No.
You're thinking too much. Just
Exactly.
No, she can't think of one word.
Go ahead.
getting on one way.
Yeah, I can't think of one word.
3, 2, 1.
Sky.
Church.
Sky and church. Sky and
All right.
church. If I can't get this, I don't know. I really don't know what to say. 3, 2, 1.
God.
Hope City.
I was better.
Yes.
I was better. I was
Where you get Hope? What in the sky have Hope City?
Because what you mean we are close to the sky? It feels like that at this point.
So what was Hope
Sky.
City and Sky?
Hope City. No,
Hope
Hope
City
City and God.
Oh Lord.
All right.
Okay, Hope City, God. 3, 2, 1.
Jesus.
What he said.
All right,
Hey,
let's just start.
let go, let
let's
go,
just start the episode.
This was like me last time when he singing. The
Yeah.
roles
No, no.
reverse
Yeah.
now. You
Yes,
know?
No,
Yeah.
Yes.
last time was entertaining. This time I don't know.
We
MP.
We fry Ren brain before we even get into the
Yes,
topic.
all you know. Tell me, like, ask me a question. Fine. Tell me, think on the spot about like one word things. I go blank. You
So
know
then
this.
the icebreaker for the next episode in 2 weeks. I don't know what you would
What I'll do.
Well, you have 2 weeks to
Anyways,
prep yourself.
2 weeks to prep. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Yay. Looking forward. Okay, guys, so we are going to dive straight into today's discussion. We're going to be talking about Easter.
Yep.
Is it a pagan holiday? There's been lots of talk in terms of if it is, if it's not, and we're just going to unpack this and,
Just see where it goes, right?
Yeah.
I
What do
mean-
you guys think, though? Is it?
Drop it in the comments, even before we go into the conversation. Let us know what you all think.
Thoughts? Yeah. I think prepping for this episode kind of opened up my eyes in some ways about certain aspects of how Easter is celebrated from a cultural context. Yeah, things that I didn't
Serious?
know about. Yeah.
So in just talking about like the traditions and so?
Yeah, just some of the traditions,
Okay.
things that I would have done and stuff like that that I had no idea. You know what?
Like what was
Where it
linked
came
to?
from, what
yeah.
it's linked to, etc. Yeah, very innocently, All right, so Easter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what is your first? How did you celebrate Easter growing up? Let's talk about that.
I always, being a pastor's kid, it was different.
Yeah.
Like, so for me, we just knew Easter as Good Friday service, Resurrection Sunday.
Okay.
That was like the main things. So we always treated that weekend real important, like, the biggest time for us as a church. Even though like Christmas is bigger in terms of the actuality of like how it's celebrated. So for me growing up, I didn't really have traditions per se. The traditions would have been like early morning service on the Good Friday.
Right.
And we used to have like a real early service as well on Sunday as well. But I have how to say, you have a sweet tooth.
Yeah.
I have sweet teeth.
Yeah.
So the only thing I cared about Easter was getting chocolates.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
wherever you
So
find
you
them.
did like get chocolates and stuff.
Well during that time, you remember a lot of like business and stuff. Like normal chocolates would be, they'd have like Easter versions, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So it was more just because of that. I didn't care about the bunny, egg, whatever. I just
Yeah.
wanted the chocolate. So-
Really? So you never I guess because of your background and stuff like that, you wouldn't have.
It was
It
always
wasn't a big deal.
Yeah. But that was never something big for us growing
Okay.
up around.
Right, and my completely contrasting story is, Easter for me growing up would have been the complete opposite. Of course, I grew up in a
So
Christian
in what sense,
home.
like what do you used to
So
do?
I grew up in a Christian home, so I understood that it was about Christ and stuff like that.
Right.
But as for the observance and how, like, our traditions at home looked, I looked forward to getting an Easter basket every single Easter Sunday. Like, my mom would prep like these big baskets filled with chocolates and stuff like that. Yeah,
And you used
that's
to do
how-
like the
that's how-
Easter bonnet parade and stuff. She used to dress up like that.
Bonnet
for the,
parade.
Oh yeah,
I may have gone like in school and stuff like that. They have
You
Easter
really-
bonnet parades. Yeah,
right. Okay, so you had to participate in that kind of stuff.
maybe I can't. I guess I would have.
they never won.
Maybe not. That's why I can't remember it, and I'm
Okay.
trying to figure out why you on my case.
And that's what
I telling my story. Yeah.
I saw pictures of you when you was a baby, so you would have a good chance of winning.
Are you gonna show that?
Yeah, that's
I
a-
feel that's
we
a
can
good,
bring it up.
Yeah.
A
Okay.
picture of me when
Yeah.
I was a
As a
baby.
baby,
I was
yeah.
a cute baby.
Okay. Well, that's what the
Well,
viewers
at
watching
least
now. Yeah.
I think so.
That's what it.
No, but yeah, that's how we celebrated.
But did you like what was the reason for like the Easter bunny eggs and the basket?
Honestly, like, this wasn't just Easter. Like, every celebration, my mother made a big deal out of it for us.
Oh,
So like Valentine's and
also she just made it special. Like she did stuff like
Easter, all these different holidays. It was like a big deal in our house. So she would always like make sure that we have like
y'all get like a nice treat.
it was literally like a treat, and we still look forward to it because, I mean, some of these things I never see in that, like the peeps. I don't really like peeps, but yeah, the chocolates were a total vibe.
Yeah. So
That's how we
it was
celebrated.
never like any meaning to it for you.
No.
It was just like more like a home tradition. Then.
You see, like how you get gifts for Christmas?
Yeah. That's
Same concept.
So any kind of occasion,
Yeah.
your mom would go out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
real nice though.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my little Easter story in terms of how we used to celebrate. I mean, we grew up Christian, but I can't remember. Church was optional, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
like we may not have necessarily gone to church. What I do know is around Easter time was a very big family occasion for us. So we'd spend a lot of time like by my grandparents and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really so much about the religious beliefs behind
No,
it,
it was
or
family.
even the traditions.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
family mainly, and we'd come together and cook, and yeah, I have a lot of memories of my grandmom and stuff like that, specifically for those types
occasions,
of holidays.
Actually, as you said that, we used to have go by my grandmother for the Good Friday.
Yeah.
When they used to make provision.
Yes,
And yeah. So
yeah.
actually,
I feel like that's a grandma's house tradition,
yeah,
probably.
Yeah. I actually, when you said it, I was like, wait, we used to do that. Yeah.
I still do that though. Like I love having provision and like saltfish and stuff like that on Good Friday, simply because I grew up doing it,
So it's just
and so
like good-
now
it's a memory.
doing it, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember those days.
That was something I only realized when I got married.
Really.
Yeah.
Oh,
What did you
sad.
realize?
That whole like eating that on a Good Friday and stuff. Yeah, Easter.
Because you never did that?
Never.
So what was your Easter like then?
Probably KFC.
Like food wise was just whatever you wanted. Didn't really have any.
Right.
So it was more or less the same, just like the whole getting chocolates and stuff like that. But the aspirations of food, when I got married and that was the food on the Friday, I was like, oh, that's like a thing now.
It's definitely not a thing
You
now.
didn't do your research
Yeah.
before you get married. Clearly.
I was researching other stuff.
But church not like a big deal?
Oh no,
for you?
church. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in church, so I recognize Easter more for
The
the
religious.
resurrection rather
Yeah.
than
Interestingly, like I grew up Catholic, so Catholics celebrate Easter a bit
Differently, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember like during Lent time, we would do something called the Stations of the Cross, and so we would do this huge, like this long walk, and you're like saying prayer or whatever in the streets. I remember that very clearly. It was like an early morning situation, and yeah, so different people celebrate
Different ways.
different ways. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. That's really nice to hear you guys' stories, though. I mean, even we live in the same space.
Right.
Probably would have been exposed to similar things, but we celebrated it
Very
differently
differently.
growing
Yeah,
up. And I'm sure people are looking on, they have their own traditions and stuff like that. Drop it in the comments. We want to hear what you guys used to do when you were younger, like how you celebrated Easter and stuff like that. So it's interesting to
But where did that word come from?
Easter.
Yeah, because I don't like anymore. Well, for church folk, we actually know like churches that actually don't actually use the word Easter. They rather you say Resurrection Sunday because they believe saying Easter doesn't give the honor that it
Right.
comes with.
Right.
So where did that word actually like originate from?
Interestingly, I don't even think like most translations of the Bible even have the word Easter.
No, it wasn't. So just same way like how you have words like the Trinity.
Yes.
So that's not found in the Bible, but the concept,
Yes.
the model, and all of that is. So what I found in just my research was the Greek, so the Latin or Greek origins. You're going to find it being called Pascha, or I probably butchering that. Pascha, deriving its origin from the Jewish celebration of Passover. So a lot of people would say it is from the pagan deities of Ishtar or
Yes.
even or Sarah. But the name actually, they found in history the translations to be rooted in the Jewish
Yes.
word of Passover.
Okay.
So Easter actually just describes that season, but just being translated from the different languages.
Okay.
Yeah.
At least that's what the earliest historical documents that I trust, like that I've seen. That plenty of people say things, but as I look for where the
Yeah.
evidence is or
Yeah,
like how
yeah.
you bring it.
Which is important. I mean,
Yeah.
understanding if it is pagan or not, we have to go all the way back.
Correct.
Right, to its
So
origins.
from the earliest writings, they found writings with it. But like I said, for the pasture or whatever, however you pronounce it, but the origin of what it was describing was Passover.
Okay.
So then where did the bunnies and the eggs come in?
But you want to go in there one time?
Where did the bunnies and eggs come from?
And bunnies lay eggs.
They do?
Chocolate
do?
ones, you know. And that's what you say again, now we see it.
You know, honestly, I never thought about that growing up. Like, I never questioned that.
Like
I saw it as two different things. Like, kind of like, you know, Santa Claus and the Grinch is two separate things. The egg and the bunny
was just
was
different.
two different things.
But for the same holiday.
I never thought like the bunny was laying eggs. But
You told what the bunny was delivering the eggs?
no, neither. Maybe, perhaps. I don't know. I can't remember.
Like I can't even remember anything like associated with that like that actually. I knew like, okay, the people talk about Easter bunnies, Easter hunts, like treasure hunts, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like games and things like that, but
Then? Yeah.
I've never done an Easter egg hunt.
I don't think I did either. I think like some churches do it, you know,
Oh, yeah?
like almost as like I know especially in the US,
Yeah.
I know churches do it like as a means to like kind of reach the community.
Right, okay.
So they would have like a Easter egg hunt where they invite the community out and they have like good prizes and stuff
Okay.
within the eggs. So like just to just be like good to them, like like
Yeah.
to share stuff like that with them.
But where did the bunnies and stuff like that come from?
So from my research, I've seen that the official Easter bunny happened in like around 1572. So that, but what they say that was nearly 500 years after paganism had any kind of foothold in Europe. So all these things, even like Christmas, I think when I trace back, these traditions start in Europe.
Yeah.
Right.
So the early
Yes.
Christians, that's
A lot of it.
I actually found that to be real strange. But what they were saying was the first record that they have to actually talk about the Easter bunny, that was 500 years after, like paganism. I wouldn't say it was wiped out, but it was far removed from their culture.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say that, I mean, you could still try to make the point, but 500-year gap doesn't really say, well, the bunny had to do with that. But what the evidence showed, they did have one writing from in the 19th century of someone making a statement that it was pagan. Jacob Ludwig, Carl Grimm, that's the man's full name.
Wow.
Grimm had no real evidence to make the claim, but he suggested that it was connection to fertility of bunnies
Okay.
and the common theme in ancient paganism
Right.
being like fertility cults and that kind of thing, because that was big. That was his link to it. But in terms of the actual evidence, like I said, it was 500 years later. What they did trace it back to was because in Germany, where there was a strong Christian movement in those times, spring and Easter, where it would fall, there would be an increase in the bunny population because that's when they would give birth, usually
Yes.
give birth.
Okay.
So they looked at it more from just being their cultural for that time and that season.
Okay. That's interesting though. I didn't know that.
So that's what like the written research, because it's easy to say something, but like the guy that I'm pulling from is a guy called Wesley Hoff. He's actually like one of our like our more modern day quote unquote scholars that he's actually trained in learning the transcripts, kind of verifying all that data and stuff like that. So based on like what he's found and so yeah, that's where it came from. I do think there's some relevance in terms of the fertility side, but like I said, the first Easter bunny, it looks, at least from what they have documented, to be so far removed from when paganism was so rampant in Europe and so.
So you think
Okay.
it's a matter of coincidence, perhaps?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Like we don't have the
Sufficient data to
sufficient
like-
data. Yeah, so I don't want to say just dismiss
yeah,
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I would say is, okay, well, the Easter bunny have nothing to do with the occasion.
Yes.
Like, I mean, unless it's different, like when you talk about Christmas, and you could probably, actually, no, you can't. It's just,
You could look at it as if it was Christmas. Like, Santa Claus has nothing to do with the birth of Jesus Christ. And
Right.
I mean, if you want to kind of say Jesus was a gift to the world and Santa Claus bringing gifts, so that's a kind of way it could but
like tired.
yeah, but really and truly,
What are you doing with the bunny?
But okay, so
well, yeah.
That's
what are you doing with the reindeer?
true.
But I mean, so it really doesn't.
Flying reindeer.
Yeah, so it's two totally different things that just come together, I guess.
I think the egg part of the Easter thing is kind of similar to the bunny as well, in that it relates to the whole fertility, God type thing, and I don't know, yeah.
So
But understanding that, right?
Right.
I mean, you said a while ago that some churches practice like having Easter egg hunts and
Right.
stuff like that. Like, with the understanding of where those things may have come from,
right.
do you think that's like a wise practice? Like, I know the intention of the church perhaps is to build community, and who knows, maybe they're not aware of where it came from. I don't know.
The way you ask the question makes it very easy to answer. You didn't ask if it was right or wrong. You asked if it was wise. And I think as leaders, and especially how I try to lead our church, is not because if something is not proven wrong, you do it.
Yeah.
I believe in the way Scripture talks about leaders should be beyond reproach, and there's much that we could be reproached for.
So you think it's not an issue of right or wrong a lot of times?
It's wisdom.
Okay.
Like, if we're in a society where misinformation could be passed, because a lot of what I had to research was because of what I came across. Like, this is evil, this is wrong, this is whatever, and so you have to, because if it is true, then yes, we have to make changes, and so. But because most people carry and honestly negative and bad news or critique of Christianity, that news travels really easily. Then I would say I would just avoid it. I wouldn't associate it. Yes, I could. Easter weekend, I would try ways for us to like get more people in church.
Yeah.
But I don't have to use something that could probably discredit Christianity
Okay.
or something like that. So, you know, I would do a different approach because I think it's the most important weekend on the calendar.
Yeah.
Not because I believe that was the day Jesus died and was resurrected.
But you're not going to have an Easter bunny outside Hope City handing out.
I mean,
No
if
chocolates?
you want to dress up as a bunny, you could.
Well, actually, Ren already have the nails for Easter.
Bro.
Let's see the nails. Come on, he
show
done
them,
call
show
it
them.
out. Let's see.
No.
He was already talking. This all
You know, like, yeah,
Well,
so
you
come
will
on.
see it while I'm talking. You're
she
making
gets
me out, and
self-conscious.
I'm like, I'm going to hold myself here for the rest
Now,
of
all
the
of you are just
episode.
going to be watching your nails until they actually show them. So
Yeah, but you talking about me, but you have the whole rainbow on your jersey.
But they don't see that.
But we can't show
Colors
him.
like, that's Easter colors too.
Nothing wrong with it. No, we're not judging you.
You're sounding like you're judging. Anyways,
So you're going to do the whole episode like that with your hands
it's not
folded.
mind my business.
Look, just drop it so she'll
Correct.
relax and forget it.
Exactly.
So no, we wouldn't be like. I don't see the need for anything like that, like those kind of gimmicks and stuff. I think you could reach your community and do stuff
In
different
other
ways. You
ways.
could call it a treasure hunt and just do it, like
Yeah.
It doesn't even need to be around
Easter
Easter
or
time.
whatever. So I mean, yeah. So for us, yeah, I don't see like having to get into culture. Some ways, yeah, we do. I'm not going to pretend.
Yeah.
Like I think, but my point in this is Easter has been so tainted with links to paganism that I just want to avoid any kind of
Yeah.
strings attached to what
Yeah.
we do with that.
But
Yeah,
you said
it's-
something there talking about the actual date of Easter.
Right.
Of the, so is it that, why is it that Easter is not the same day every year? Just like how Christmas is, you know, you could look forward to it on the
Why
25th.
isn't it?
Yeah, why is it not a set date?
Wait, want me answer?
I know, like from the Catholic standpoint, like I know they set it from, like, so we celebrate Palm
not-
Sunday and stuff.
Yeah, so I can't remember why, but I do know, like, and we were discussing this earlier, like, it has to do with the Jewish and when they celebrate Passover and stuff like
Passover.
that. And of course, that date changes. So that's the reason why on
Yeah.
our calendar we would see
Based on
a
the
different
seasons.
date. Yeah. And even Christmas, like, we celebrate Christmas on the 25th, but I mean,
So like that date fixed,
Yeah.
but like we all know it's not.
Yeah.
But Easter is actually more tied to a religious
yes.
practice, and that's what most people don't see because it's less popular.
Yeah.
Because we love Christmas because of the traditions we've built around it and
Yeah.
stuff. But Easter actually is tied to something very powerful.
So is it then that obviously because the date, because some people would like, okay, right, so the date is not consistent. Like we know, this is the perception of some people, right?
Right.
Jesus was born on the 25th, right? So there's like a fixed date for that.
To work with that.
He was not, but let's work with it, right?
Yeah.
He was not like he died and he was resurrected on XYZ date, right? Like people have a difficulty
Like accepting that part.
but it's not an inconsistency. Like there's a reason why the date is the way it is, and
How it
I would
shifts.
say it's not necessary. It's more of an observance, really, in terms of like that's how I look at it. It's an observance. Like we observe his
So even for like the birth, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's nothing about the date. It's and that's how I hope like I try to communicate it to like Christians, and so it's not really about the exact date or so. It is the fact that okay, this is what we celebrate. It's an event we celebrated.
Yes.
And we don't have historical documentation to that detail to know every single day or time, whatever. They have actually really close documents that could actually give you a really good idea of the time period and stuff. But it's tied to Passover, and Passover was a shadow of what Christ would come and do.
Yeah.
And so that's why we tie it in like that, and that's why we celebrate it, because it's the greatest day in history. And
It literally is.
Yeah.
It is, and like I have no problem whether we celebrate it whatever day, and we get holidays for it, so that kind of fixes it in the sense of like that's how we do the special services or whatever. So from a practical standpoint, like I have no problem doing it on the days that the world would set it, or however they celebrate it. The point is what does it represent?
Yeah.
And that for me is what most important.
Yeah.
And how you tie people to
behind it. But I mean, we've been going through some of the modern day ways people celebrate. So we spoke about the bunnies and stuff like that, the eggs.
And the eggs,
but there are also some ways locally how we do it here, like Good Friday traditions or the bubbly and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You ever made one?
Never made one, but
Never made one.
You ever was one?
If what?
You ever was one?
What do you mean you could be one? There's lots of people.
I was going to say I might have did some wrestling moves on my little brother and thing. You could ask him about that.
All
So
right, cool. So he was the bubbly then.
he was at that point.
That's your advantage.
He used to get me in trouble though. He used to go on. But like where we grew up, like where my grandmother used to live, and it was more like community based, and they would always do the bubbly and stuff. Yeah. They'd always have one and stuff. And up to recently, like probably a couple of years back, I drove through and I saw one like on the corner at the street and stuff, which I found was actually cool. But
you find that cool? You ever drive past one in the night? Listen to me.
But before you move on, for the viewers that may not be from Trinidad, just explain what a bubbly is.
It's basically like it's Judas, and they take like things from their house and kind of like make this kind of form the body.
Think about almost like a scarecrow.
Yeah.
They form like a person, and then they beat him up.
Yeah, they real beat him up.
So is it that because I've only like seen them like after like they hang them up and stuff.
Right.
So is it that like the community actually comes together and the beating happens like?
I think long ago it was like a community.
It was like to build it and stuff was like the community and everything.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
but I mean that like so much different things like in our culture has been kind of lost. Yeah, but I am afraid of that. I'll be very honest. That thing is to scare me. It looks scary. It looks scary, right? So I used to.
It's just pillows.
Drive quickly past, look the other way, kind of situation. Yeah, not even in the mood. But to be honest with you all, I don't. I mean, you seem to like you like the concept of. The community part of it, right?
You actually took part in it?
Or? No, okay. Like I would more see it like the after and stuff.
Okay.
But I liked it for the only for the sense of, the community came together. So where we were there, we were mainly surrounded by Hindus.
Okay.
And so when they would put that together, if someone would ask or want to know more, it was like a real opportunity for you to tell them who Judas was, why it is important. I mean, we don't want to go, we not want to go and try and be Judas or whatever, but the idea that they come together for that and stuff, I just felt like it had opportunity that you could have conversations that you might not normally have.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of people just more open to coming to church on Easter as well because they
true.
know it's important.
I mean, and that shows every Easter.
Right?
Packed churches.
And I think they did not come in for any Easter bunny or anything. So I feel like even the traditions that might be questionable, they don't shape like what Easter is for us.
Yeah.
You know, and
It doesn't affect the faith part
correct.
of it, yeah.
But one thing you said, like, you know, like we would know the traditions, but I think where we have a problem nowadays is that plenty people know about Easter, but they don't know the traditions, but they also don't know the reason.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that is the other side of the pendulum that we kind of living through right now.
Yeah. I don't know, the whole Judas beaten this thing, I don't know.
Is this still you?
Actually, back in the day, I'm like, yeah, he's a traitor. Beat him. Beat him good and proper. But I don't know, like, I feel like I ain't perfect, Olian. I just feel like there's so many ways that we are like Judas, not to over spiritualize,
Right.
but we are sinners just like him, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, Jared, I don't want Oli to do me that. So, you know, like, don't beat him too hard.
All right.
You know? Show a little grace.
Because you want a
And a
little
little
grace.
Yeah, I need plenty.
I hear you. Nah, I mean, like I said, but like it's, you know, when you said it initially, it's something that feeding.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
we losing plenty of our culture
Oh,
and
yeah.
different things like that.
Like kids growing up now, if they happen to see one, they're gonna be like, "Oh, what is that?"
They have no like context or anything.
No
for it.
context.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we grew up in an age where we knew about it, but it's kind of
It was,
fading.
I think it was already
fading.
fading. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of sad. It is.
Yeah,
Kind
you
of
said
sad.
we. You're close to my age.
No, I'm not. I am not. Okay? I will not go on the record saying any such thing.
But one thing that not really feeding is hot cross buns. To me, that from before to now is something that's like a staple. At
Because that's
least,
food.
well, yeah, but it's still it's something that I think hasn't. It probably is even more popular now
Yes.
in the sense of what people will expect around this time.
Yeah.
We had found with the
Oh, what I found with hot
Yeah,
cross
that's
buns.
kind of why I just said
I
that
know
to allow you
man
to
do a real nice transition.
What's that?
go ahead.
I missed a whole something.
You throw off with the nails.
Yeah, I
man.
realize.
Like she could.
I can't catch myself here.
Go ahead with your point about hot cross buns.
Today, hey, this is not your episode.
Clearly not. Everybody on my case. What is this? So I did find that there's some link in terms of I'm gonna butcher this name. ASTART is what?
You look who you're
Ashtarte.
asking.
Yeah, but you just pronounce these words.
No, I
As
get-
for if it's correct, we will never know, but we'll go with what you're saying.
Was it sister?
ASTARTE. Whatever that is.
You'll put it up on the
In
screen for them.
English, the Queen of Heaven. So what they were saying is like the Canaanites and stuff like that back in the Bible days, they used to offer burnt offerings to this goddess. And one of the ways that they prepared to honor this god is by making cakes for
Okay.
the goddess. And it's kind of similar to the custom that we see popular all around the world. I did not know that cakes and buns were a thing beyond Trinidad or like outside of Trinidad, but it is like in Europe and stuff like that.
So where I found like the first recorded with the hot cross bun, it was from Europe again.
Yeah, Europe.
Yeah. So you know it was big. So go ahead. Yeah.
So they bake cakes or buns, and they place the cross on top of it with a glaze on Good Friday. That's basically what I found, and
So-
the cross is really to signify, well, the cross obviously,
Right, the
that
resurrection, right?
Jesus died on.
But like, so for me, I found that one theory dates back to the 14th century where Anglican monk
Yeah.
baked the buns at St. Albans Abbey, and he called them the Alban bun. So this is like one of the first places they actually recorded this. So he distributed them to the poor on Good Friday.
Okay.
So when he put the cross, was like almost like evangelizing, but
Wow. Okay.
he was
okay.
feeding the poor with it.
Yeah.
That's like one of the first places they found it, like actually being a symbol for Easter weekend.
Okay.
So when this monk started to do it,
became popular.
It became popular for them
Kind of
as
like,
well.
you know what it sounded like? Again, Christmas. Saint Nicholas.
Ev-
And
yeah, because he was a real person who was
Yes,
helping the poor and
exactly.
stuff like that. So for me, like even when I heard like the history with the Canaanites and stuff, if you look at it, the Israelites as well, they sacrifice animals, but they weren't the only people to sacrifice animals.
yeah.
So like you do have to have a kind of separation.
Yeah.
So like we pray and fast, other religions pray and
Pray and
fast,
fast.
but it's different.
It looks different. Yeah, it's different.
It's different. So you have to be careful where, so the one with the eggs that I found was, that is one thing that is common amongst many pagan
Yes.
practices and stuff, like
Yeah.
the eggs
That's
especially.
symbol, yeah.
Yes. But when it was for Easter, it was because the same thing, a Sir Gregory something. I'm gonna find this guy. Yeah. No, that wasn't Gregory. He King Edward the First actually decorated hundreds of hard-boiled eggs with golden leaves to be handed out to his family and friends.
Okay.
So it was not anything religious, whatever. I don't know why he did it that
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
Well, we can't ask him, but the point is like, so the argument here was that okay, eggs are used in thing, but nobody gonna stop eating eggs for that. So we just be careful with how we associate stuff. So with the buns, I don't know if it was similar buns, if it was similar way that they baked it. Like we don't have the history with that.
Yeah.
So what I know people do it for is like as a good gesture, but the history of like from Europe, it was a man who was feeding the poor with it. So he would make them, put the cross on it,
Yeah.
and it wasn't like icing or anything like we know now. He
Yeah.
would actually cut it.
Ooh, okay.
So when it
okay.
was baked, it would have the cross on the
I know some
inside.
people wouldn't like that.
Well, that's the only way I eat a bun like that is
Is
if it's
without
sweet.
icing.
Of course. Miss me with that kind of. But yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so again, it has so many different things
Yes.
it could trace back to.
But to be honest, like growing up eating buns, I didn't know anything about it, any kind of pagan link. I didn't even consider it's food. Like, you know.
I don't think like most of the things like around Easter is a little bit easier in the sense of there was no strong meaning behind it.
Yes.
Like we weren't taught something like Christmas. You have a little more depth and a little more idea with stuff, but for Easter, honestly, these traditions, like I know for me, like you had a different experience, even you, and we all had different experiences, but hardly anything was tied back to something.
Something that concrete that could say,
Yeah.
hey, we
Yeah.
just definitely cannot be doing this.
Correct. I mean, and
But like you mentioned, there may be certain things we may not do because, not necessarily because of it being right or wrong, but the wisdom.
the wisdom, yeah. I mean, I can't, as much as I want to say, but I can't take a Easter bunny and relate it back to Christ, especially if
Exactly. And I mean, I'm sure there are people out there
Who
that
probably
just find ways of
could do
doing
all those things and explain.
Yes.
But for me, I feel like we in a culture right now where Easter bunnies, Easter eggs, these things actually cast a shadow
Yes.
on Easter for Christians.
Yeah.
So for me, I just avoid it. I'm not losing anything by it.
Yeah.
I just have a new way of trying to proclaim Christ. And, we still find ways to communicate to persons, that maybe break down the barriers different ways. But
That's
yeah.
a real good point. Like when you really think about how Easter may be perceived, like, I mean, we're in the church, so we're kind of looking out almost. But for persons who may not be churched, it is going to look like the Easter bunny and eggs, and that is the most important part of
Easter,
Easter.
because but what people need to understand though, like with most holidays, it's commercialized.
Yes.
It's about dollars and cents.
So yeah, the reason why people know about that more is because, again, advertising and
of course.
money is being spent.
How much your mother would have to pay for all them Easter egg and
I
all them
don't
things?
know, well, it was back in the day, and it probably wasn't. It is not as expensive as it is now.
How much
I
you pay for
ain't
your
buying no
nails?
egg.
How much you pay for your nails?
Good
You relax yourself in the
This
corner.
man,
there for
this
me,
man. You
Just
trying
would
to, we now
not-
get her to open back up and you see the hands moving, look how it gone.
please. Wow.
We need to have a session after.
Session.
Yeah,
Clearly.
clearly, right? Because, Y'all,
Moving on.
Well, she asked us to be more vocal, so
Yeah, I'm
feel more-
quickly
I'll
regretting
obey.
that.
yeah, boy.
Quickly regretting that. But let's talk a little bit, about the biblical accuracy and, the whole modern traditions, like we would have mentioned, the way it's celebrated in our culture today.
Right.
When you hear people, especially people that are looking for problems in terms of looking for reasons that we should not be celebrating Easter,
Right.
there are many reasons why people would say, hey, it's a number of reasons, which we would probably touch on some of them here.
Right.
Some persons may say the Bible is kind of inconsistent in terms of when Jesus rose from the dead. So, and they would use scripture. So in John 2:19, it does say in reference to the resurrection that in 3 days he would raise.
Right.
In Mark 8:31, it says after 3 days. In Luke 24:46-47, it says
The third day.
on the third day.
Right.
That could be a little confusing for persons who may have questions like that. What does it mean? How do you even begin to understand? The Bible is the final authority, and
Right,
and
right.
we say that it's
We believe it has no errors.
no errors.
Correct.
So then why this looking kind of conflicting?
Yeah, and not even that, like this, how the days fall too.
Yes.
When I was younger, that was something I used to kind of question, like, Good Friday is Friday, but then we celebrate the resurrection on the Sunday, but if my
Yeah.
math's correct, that's 2 days.
2.5
Yeah.
at best.
Yeah, but
and-
I didn't get one in maths, so my maths might be a little off.
So when I was younger, I thought that's why they used to give the holiday on the Monday. I thought Monday was
Oh.
actually the resurrection.
such a nice boy. He work it out.
But how would you respond to persons that may have questions
So-
like that?
So we have to be careful when we use the word like that. That's not a contradiction.
Yeah.
A contradiction is like two opposing
Yeah.
realities. Like being a married bachelor, right? That's a contradiction, right? These are what we'll call differentials in the details,
Right.
Yeah.
right? So let's start off from the front. They're still talking about a similar time period,
Yes.
right? Even though not precise. The reality is, these guys who wrote this would have been what they would have heard from the eyewitnesses. So they're speaking from a different perspective. But the main thing that I came across when I was looking at these differences was, so in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, those gospels, or what they call the synopsis gospels, they kind of mirror each other,
Yeah.
even though they highlight different aspects of the same events. John's gospel is actually very different. And the reason for that as well is because the first three gospels are written to like mainly Jewish audience. So the time periods, the keeping of like the festivals and things,
Yeah.
they're speaking differently. John is actually talking to a Roman audience. So Gentiles then. So that's why his gospel looks so different. He actually introduces Christ and shows his divinity from start to finish. What I've seen is that, okay, so just in the timekeeping, so major things with the time. Number one, we have to think about our culture today.
Yeah.
We have timekeeping on our computers or phone, watches. Like we have precise timekeeping. Back in that culture, it would be segments they would probably be more associated with.
Yeah.
The difference between the Roman timekeeping and the Jews, their day starts from in the evening. So that can account for a little bit of the disparity of when the time period being. But the major one is this. They did not have devices that kept the time as precise to the hour, minute, seconds.
Right.
And so for me, it's not a contradiction, definitely, but it's not even that different. They say in 3 days, it's how they measure time as well. So even like when you look at like when they celebrated the Sabbath, it would start from the 6 p.m. that evening to the next day.
Right.
So the way they counted their days and their time looked different.
Yeah.
I think the general aspect is okay. He was killed, and 3 days later he rose again. Like whether that was precise or
An average.
an average of the time, man, the main thing is he rose, he got up.
Yeah.
And what it says is that in all the Gospels, they have eyewitness accounts of it. So for me, that's more important. So for me, I don't really see that as a stumbling block in terms. I mean, if you want to have a problem with it, it's because probably you don't want to believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, because there's the Bible actually has so much more evidence and proof from an archaeological standpoint,
Yes.
from a historical documentation standpoint, that we trust more history books than we do the Bible. Yet the Bible has so much more backing in terms of writings, eyewitness accounts, etc. So if you stumble over something like that, no problem to have a question, but that should not be something that stops you from believing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true.
So do you think like it doesn't matter what day we observe the resurrection, celebrate it?
I don't think so. I mean, so for me, I consider it this way, and I think we were talking about this even like when we were just talking about this topic. But like every time you do communion, you're remembering his death and his burial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and he said as often as you do it. So it wasn't just for one weekend or so. I think as the church at large, Big C Church, I think it's great that the churches all across, you know, the world
Come together
and celebrate
Yeah.
it together.
Yeah.
But as Christians, we should be thinking about this much more than just once a year.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying it. For me, it was never about the date,
Yeah.
you know, or the precise time period. It's the fact that, okay, we know there's a historical event. Like from secular writers, historians, Jesus, there was a man by the name of Yeshua, well, translated for Jesus. He lived and he was crucified.
Yeah.
And there's also writings that there were several eyewitnesses that believed to see him alive again. So you can take that however you want, but from a historical standpoint, that there's no question in those events or so. And so for me, historical, the supernatural aspect, there's so many different reasons, prophetic, all these things. You see that that this event happened just as the Bible said
it would. Yeah.
it would, and even predicted like
Way
thousands of years before.
Yeah.
And so for me, it doesn't
That's
matter the
sufficient
day.
enough.
Yeah, it don't matter the day.
I think I feel the same way. It really doesn't matter. It matters in the sense that, like, all the things that you just spoke about, the Bible does check out.
Right.
But beyond that, like, we should be observing and we should be mindful of what he did for us so much more often than just a one-off.
Let's be straight, like every
celebration.
single day.
Yeah. Yeah,
like-
literally.
Every single day. And that's the reality. I don't want to make this like, Easter, if it's pagan or not, but at the end of the day, the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus should be something that should be in our conversations all the time.
Facts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, not just on this podcast or whatever, but like even when we leave here, our
Yeah.
communities and stuff. I'm not saying 24/7, but
Yeah,
it should
we're
be
not
the
trying to make it
foundation.
sound like
Yeah.
super spiritual, but I mean, just like looking at it from a cultural standpoint, it would seem that it's just a one day
Correct.
hooray, and then you
And
forget
let's be
about
real,
it.
sometimes the church treats it as that
Yeah,
too, eh?
yeah. I mean, we could probably
Yeah.
do a better job at
Yeah.
at that, but yeah, we should be doing this thing as often as we can.
And I think it was when we were prepping for the episode, you had give us a story, not a story, but facts that how it was proven in the Old Testament. You're talking about I think the crucifixion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I did some check to make sure I got it right. I had misquoted. It's in Psalm 22. Psalm 22 is David writing, but he's under the power of the Holy Spirit. And he's talking about the crucifixion. He's talking from Jesus' perspective.
Oh.
And Jesus, so he actually marks the same words that he's forsaken. And he even gets to the detail. It's in Psalm 22:18, I believe, that he actually talks about when the soldiers fight for his garments and they cast lots to see who will get it. This is thousands of years before Jesus comes and is crucified.
Yeah.
Here's the crazy part. When David is writing this, crucifixion has not even been invented yet. There is no Roman Empire.
Yeah.
That's why I believe the scriptures the way I do.
Yeah.
Because no other book will give you that much detail and then show how it was proven to the letter.
Yeah.
You have David, King David, writing a psalm, and he's quoting words that Jesus would say. He's quoting what is actually happening at the foot of the cross. soldiers fighting over his clothing. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
That for me is so crazy when I think about it, and just how beautiful God was in letting the people know. Like, so for us, we live in the best times, to believe. Like, just imagine the early Jews and all of them. They didn't have the context of everything.
Yeah.
Like, we say, well, if we saw Jesus, no, we might have doubted. I say
true.
He's a crazy man. Balling that he's God. We might have been wanting to stone him.
Yeah, 100.
We actually get to see the evidence of everything from start to the resurrection, and then the empowerment of the church.
Yeah.
Guys, like that for me is the most beautiful. So yeah, I've always been fascinated. The Old Testament was always a shadow. Abraham being asked to sacrifice his son, it was God given an image
Yeah.
of what he was going to do for mankind. So all through the Old Testament, there's the pictures of it. There's just a pastoral side of it. When you read the Old Testament, don't read yourself into it. We's not David, we's not Joseph. These characters, these individuals in history were there to demonstrate an aspect of Jesus Christ. So Joseph showed one of the greatest qualities of God, the ability to forgive. Remember how he forgave his brothers when they came before him?
Yeah.
All those characters put in together is realized in the perfect being of Jesus Christ.
Right.
That's why he died for our sins. But yeah, that's... sorry, MP. Hey, she done blowing it all the time. Like every episode now.
Yeah. But as we wind down, I think it's really a good place to just go a little more in depth into what the gospel is. Really let people know what happened on those 3 days and the reason behind it.
Yeah. I just talk plenty.
You just talk plenty.
But started at least now. Yeah.
I was kind of just like thinking about all the things that you just said there, and kind of trying to, and all that we would have said in the episode, and trying to figure out where do we stand right now, like in terms of how do we honor Christ in the way that we observe observe Easter, like in our modern day culture.
Right.
And I don't know how to answer that.
You don't know what to answer. Like,
I mean, yes, being mindful. I mean, there are things that we do, like, yes, the church, a service, and
Right.
we have, like, special stuff. But for me, I guess it comes down to just having an understanding and mindfulness of like, what he did. What would you say to that, like, in terms of honoring Christ in the way that we observe
how we
Easter.
observe Easter. So I think like we had said even before, we try to think and bring it back to remembrance outside of the Easter weekend, right?
Yeah.
So we spoke about that. We talked about communion. I think that's
Yes.
real important. So I think that's part of honoring what he did, because it's based on what he did. But to answer your question in terms of like how do we celebrate it, for me, just going back to what Easter represents. So we keep saying the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ. What does that actually mean? Well, Jesus came to the earth to live a perfect life that none of us could live. Because like you said it, you don't like the bubbly because you know your own wrongdoing. And you rightfully said it. We all are like Judas. Because we know good, we know right, but we still do wrong.
Yeah.
So in a way, we betray what we know to be right, that what
Yeah.
God would want, right? And so Christ coming is that he lived the perfect life. And so what he did was he actually kept all the laws of God.
Yeah.
All the laws that God had given that man should not do, or what we can't do, or what we shouldn't do. And obviously we break them. Christ came and fulfilled them fully. And so when he died, his life was a sacrifice for our sins. Because none of us could get back to God on our own merit. And so when he was put into that tomb, into that grave, it says that he descended and he took the keys of sin and death. So that the power of sin and death was broken over mankind because of what Christ did. Meaning that he paid, he was crucified, but because he had no sin, he rose again. it had no power over him.
Yeah.
Now, sin and death reigns over us because of this flesh. We all sin. But that's why now that Christ is resurrected, he says if any man put their faith in him, believe on him, believe in what he did, believe that he's the Son of God, he lived that perfect life, was crucified and rose again. And here's the crazy thing. It is a belief that only God could really stir in us, but you can't fight down that belief based on facts because there's enough evidence that he rose again.
Yeah.
That his closest followers were tortured and killed for the belief. So they didn't start a religion for fame, fortune, or anything. They paid with their lives. Nobody gonna pay for their life for something unless it was true like that.
Yeah.
And they held their convictions, and we have enough examples. For me, how do I celebrate that? I want to live and I want to tell as many people that there's hope in Christ. That there is going to be a day where you're going to face God and you can't do that on your own goodness. But God made a way for us, and his name is Jesus. So how do I want to celebrate Easter? For me as a pastor, I want to have the best service I could where I exalt Christ. I want, after that, the second part of the service is to empower others to go and do the same. Invite people to Christ. That's not the church. Invite them to Christ.
Yeah.
You know, and let's see where we go from there.
Yeah. I think we're out of time.
Yeah, you could talk.
What?
You could talk. You don't have a limit.
We don't have a limit.
No.
He giving you leeway. He trying to make
You don't
up.
want to do that, you know. He trying to make up for
He trying
all
to make up. You see how she beats.
So I think, after hearing all that you just said there, we started this episode asking the question if Easter is pagan or not.
Right.
I would say, and I think the follow-up question to that would be, should we celebrate Easter or observe Easter?
Yeah.
I think we answered that. And if you weren't too clear, yes, I
Absolutely,
think you
yes.
should.
Yeah.
Observe all that Christ did for us. Nothing wrong with that. And don't just do it only then.
So let's just bring the knowledge into it. Think of Easter, or the other word for it is Passover.
Yeah.
And Passover was a representation of what Christ did on the cross. So yeah, definitely celebrate it. But I know you had something else there. But like with the elements and stuff, I would say avoid the stuff that probably
that
even
may have
not
question marks on
correct.
on them.
I thought that's where you had a hit, you know.
No, I was leaving you too, you know.
You only gave me
No, but yeah, like you said, so there's a wisdom in avoidance.
I think so.
sometimes.
I can't tell people what to do.
We can't, but we could give them the information and hopefully they make the
wise choice.
Wise choice.
That's it. Yeah.
Anyways, guys, it's as always a pleasure spending this time with you. This is a safe space, like we always say. If you want to chime in on the conversation, you can hit us up on socials. We are on TikTok, we are on Instagram, and on YouTube. Also Facebook too.
Spotify.
Yeah?
Spotify.
Oh yeah, Spotify.
Because we
We'll
are
see you guys next time. What?
Because we are a podcast, so we are on.
Yes, we are a podcast, as the
You really
MD
asked them the
say.
same way.
Yes. Anyways.
And don't worry, I'll pay for your nails next time.
Listen, I'm trying to say goodbye.
You're actually showing them your nails while by doing.
Bye, guys.
Take care.